Hi everyone, and welcome to the Stitch Sessions. I'm Karen and I love all things crafty. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new here, welcome back. It's always a fun time when I can share my love of crochet with all of you. Now in this week's project, we are working on a really quick project actually. It is the rope rug, and as you guys know, I like to create some rugs for my balcony door, I should say, and or a doorway actually. And I love this combination of using this coral color along with one of my favorite yarn colors from Bernat Handicrafter Cotton, and it's this candy cotton or cotton candy. I always get the name mixed up. But you've seen me use these colors in my original balcony doormat tutorial, and I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below if you want to check that out. And this time, using the same colors, I'm creating a rug using cotton cording as well. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you can work this up. And actually, all we do is use the single crochet stitch, and it creates a really sturdy, nicely, tightly woven rug. I think you guys are going to love it, and especially for you beginners, I think you're going to surprise yourself as to how easy it's going to be. So let's talk about the materials we're going to need for this project, and let's dive right in. Okay, so let's talk about our materials. So for the yarn, I am using the Bernat Handicrafter Cotton. I love this yarn for things like rugs. It's really durable. It's 100% cotton. It means you can throw it in the wash. So this is what I'm using. You will need approximately between 200 to 300 grams. As always, it will depend on your gauge and of course how large you want your rug to be. These do come in 50-gram skeins. Now some of them will say 42.5. Like this one says the 42.5 grams. So just a little something to be aware of. And the colors I'm using are the same colors I used for my original balcony doormat back in 2018, 2019 maybe. I'll leave a link for it in the description box down below. That rug, we used the thermal stitch, and it was probably one of my top 10 tutorial videos that you guys really, really liked. And I'm thinking maybe it's because of this color. I adore this color, and here I am again using it. In case you are wondering, it is called Candy Sprinkles. And like I said, I just love it. I think it's a great color. And so I am using these two strands together. And by the way, in case you're wondering what this color is, it's simply called Coral Rose. Okay, so that's what I'm using for yarn, and you're going to need some cotton cording, okay? Now again, I have chosen cotton. You can certainly choose jute, by the way, but I always think about maintenance and how easy I can just throw something in the wash. So this is what I've got here. I picked this one up at Michael's, and it's called Bead Landing. And it comes in spools of 50 yards or 45.7 meters. And the thickness is a 4mm thickness, which is plenty, okay? The other thing you wanna make sure you have is a measuring tape, because you're gonna be doing a little bit of measuring with our cord first to begin, as well as you may wanna measure the spot where you're gonna place your rug. And like I said before, mine is going to be for my balcony door. So for the hook, I am using a 6mm hook, which is also known as a J or a size 10. And as always, make sure that you have a pair of scissors. You're definitely going to need it for this project, and a yarn needle for sewing in any ends later on. So let's get started on our rug. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take your measuring tape and measure the width of the space that you are going to create your rug for. So, because mine is the door, my balcony doormats are usually about 24 inches in length, with a depth of anywhere between 12 up to 14 inches in depth. So right now, what we want to concern ourselves with is the length measurement. So for me, like I said, that is going to be about 24 inches. However, because we are creating our rug using some cording, we're going to knot it on each end here, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We're going to need a slightly longer length. So I have been cutting my strips in lengths of 29 inches. So that's quite a few inches more than the 24. I would say if you add an extra 2 inches on each end, which would have given you 28, but I always add extra. So, and I've found that it's worked out quite well for me. So I've got 29 inches in length. So if you're on metric, that's going to be about 73.5 centimeters. So if you're following along exactly with me, that is the measurement you want to have. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your cording to start off with. So I've got a few here. Okay. And you want to just start cutting a few strips to measure the length that you need. So I just take my measuring tape and I just go until I have 29 inches. Okay. And then you're just going to snip it like that. So that is what I would do. I would get several cords going. Based on the measurements that I'm using, I know I'm going to need a total of 16 of these. Okay, so now you're going to notice that I've got a few already pre-cut here, and I've knotted them on the ends here. Okay, and this knot is what's going to help your stitches from slipping right off. And of course, there's many different ways of using the cording with crochet. Where you are not cutting it into strips, but this is the method of my design. Now, I did pre-knot these, and I am going to recommend you do not do that. And I'll explain to you why as we go along. What I would recommend you do is once you've got all of your strips done, or maybe you might not know exactly how many strips you're going to need for sure, I would start off with a handful. And I would knot the first one on each end. So you've got a knot at the end here, and you've got a knot at the end here. You'll notice too, once you add that knot, your 29 inches will shrink down to about 25. Now, I said that my rugs are usually about 24 inches in length. I want this one slightly longer, not to mention when you throw them in the wash, there is a bit of shrinkage over time, okay? So for the very first one, I would definitely recommend you knotting it. So you just want to make a loop as if you're going to do a slip knot. You're going to poke the short end through and you make a knot. And you just want to kind of gauge how long of a little end you want to leave. I do want to leave a little bit out. It'll just create like a little bit of a mini tassel on each edge. So just do it nice and tight, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the other end and I'm going to do the same thing. Just like that. Okay, so now you've got a nice knot on each end. So the reason why I say don't go ahead and do the others, because the thing with knots, like this one, you can't really see in the camera, this one's pretty close to the same length. But once you start knotting it, there's never a guarantee that you're going to knot it exactly in the same spot. And especially as you crochet over it, your stitches, you might get a little tighter, you might get a little looser as you continue through the project. So just knot the first one. I'll get you started. And then we'll kind of take you from there. The rest is going to be super easy. Like I said, if you know your single crochet stitch, you are good to go. So let's get our yarn and get going here. Okay, so as I said, we're using 2 strands held together. So I've got my coral rose and I've got my cotton candy yarn here. Or candy sprinkles, I always call it cotton candy. So I'm just holding them together. And you're going to place a slip knot, right? And then you're going to create a slip knot, just like that. Place it on your hook. And now you want to pick up your cording. So the first little while might be a bit awkward until you get used to it. So you're gonna pick up your cording here. And what you're gonna do is you're just simply going to trap the cord between the hook and your working yarn there. And then you're just gonna yarn over and slip stitch to secure your cord. So there you go. So now it's in there. And so we're just going to proceed to do single crochet stitches while trapping our cord inside the stitch. So that means you're going to reach under the cord in order to pull up a loop. See, now you've got 2 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over, and now you're going to pull through both loops just like you would with a single crochet. See? And now your cord is getting trapped under that stitch. So let's do that again. You always want to reach under the cord, which feels weird because there's like no stitches that you're working into. Reach under the cord, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both loops. Just like that. See, you can see the top of your stitch there and your cord is being trapped in there. Now you can see it's curling a little bit. So in the first row, you can still basically move your cord around, right? So what we want to do is we want to establish how many single crochets we're going to need to fill up the length of the cord. What you want to be careful of is you don't crochet too tightly because that means you're going to jam a lot of stitches in here, but you also don't want to stitch too loosely, okay? Because we want the rug to be pretty sturdy. You're going to be wiping your feet on it, that kind of stuff. So you just want to gauge that as long as the loops are sitting nicely together, they're kind of snug but not too tight, you are good to go. So I know for me that I generally will fit 85 stitches along this first row, okay? So you just continue reaching under, pulling up, and pulling through, okay? So go ahead and do that until your cord is completely covered and you reach the other end where your knot is. And then I will take you on to row number 2. Okay, so when you come to the end, your work is going to look like that. So you've got the knot on the other end here. And now all you want to do is just make sure that it's not bunched up. It will twist a little bit sometimes, so see, it kind of wants to curl. So just make sure it's not particularly bunched in any one spot. See, there's a little bit of a gap there, because this will affect subsequent rows, okay? So just see how it's kind of a little bit bunched at the beginning here, which is normal for it to happen because you think in the beginning you want to squish them all in, but you actually want them to spread out nice and evenly there and just get a nice feel for it. And, oops, see that one? There we go. And then we're ready to go on to row number 2. So for me, I did have my 85 stitches. You might have 90, that's okay. You might have 80 instead of 85. So again, don't worry about it. It's more about the technique than it is about the number of stitches. But if you're following closely along with me, you should have similar to my number of stitches. So now we're gonna go on to row number 2. And so this is where we need to bring in our next strand. Okay, so I've got my next strand. You'll notice it's knotted on one end and not the other. We're gonna wait till the end of our row to knot that one. So we're gonna take the knotted end. Oh, before I do that, we want to chain 1 at the end of your first row. You're going to turn your work, and now you're gonna pick up your next strand. And what you want to do is you just want to sit it just kind of against the top of your stitches there, okay? So I'm going to just bring that cord up here. You can see I want the knots, see how this knot is sticking out? I want all the knots to be sticking out on each end. Then you go back into the very first stitch right there, insert your hook, pull up a loop. I know the cord is away from me, but and just bring it back. This is where we're going to trap the cord in there, okay? So you're going to yarn over, and now you're going to pull through both loops, and there you have it. See, your cord is in there now. And I just kind of pull it a little snug. See how the knots are showing through? Perfect. And now I just continue on as I did before. except now I actually have stitches to go into. So I'm gonna find the next stitch. I'm gonna insert there, keeping my cord down. And when I pull up a loop, that is the point in time when I'm trapping that cord in there, okay? And then I resolve it like a regular single crochet. So again, I go into the next stitch. This is why in the first round, it was so important not to bunch your stitches, because this row 2 is where you're really gonna see it. Okay, so you wanna just keep it nice and relaxed, okay? And that's what it looks like. And you're gonna continue doing that all the way to the end until you get to your 85th stitch or 90th stitch, however many you have. And you should end up having a little bit of tail left over, okay? And this is where we're gonna make sure we're gonna straighten everything out. It's not too bunched up, and then we will knot it. But I will get to that. I will take you through that once we get there. For now, just continue working over your cord, and I will meet you here once you're at the end of row number 2. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of row number 2, and you can see my cord is almost running short, and you're thinking, how am I gonna knot this thing? Well, you're also gonna notice probably that your work might start doing that, and that's natural because what's happening is your cord does shift a little bit inside. So what you wanna do is you just wanna hold on to this tip, hold on to the other end right there, and you just wanna give it a little bit of a pull so it goes taut, and see, it starts to straighten itself out. See, so now it's lying a little bit more flat, more flush, and this is what your work is looking like after row 2. So you see now you've got some length here. And now is a good time to gauge if you're on the right track, and then you can place a knot in it at this point, okay? Because you know you're gonna fit enough stitches, and put it nice and tight. See how when you stretch that, it's gonna stretch the cord. So you just do that again. You go to the other end and make sure it's the end of the cord you're working on, and you just pull it. Oops. There we go. It just kind of straightens out. You can kind of run your hand through it, and it just kind of shifts the stitches down, and now you can fit the last few stitches. So I can see I've got a couple more stitches to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And that's pretty much it. So I take it down to the end. And the first row always ends up being a little bit buckled because as much as we try, we always inadvertently put a few more stitches in that first cord, the first row, than really we need to. But that's okay. That's what handmade is all about. It's got its little quirks. Okay, so we've got a couple more stitches here. Single crochet. And then I've got 1 and 2. So I'm just gonna finish off these stitches here. And row 2 is pretty much gonna be complete. Okay, and then I've got 1 more here. And your single crochet, okay? So now both ends are kind of trapped in, and now you might just wanna hang on to both of these ends and just kind of smooth out the stitches so that they sit nice and even out there. That's why in some ways, I would say for row 1, I would keep it a little bit looser. Even if you do, remember back here we saw a couple of gaps? That's okay, because now when you work the stitches on top, it'll have room to breathe. But all you do is you just kind of go along, stretch it out so that they're nice and even. Now you've got something that is sitting nice and flat like that. And I love kind of the feel of the durability. So the cotton cord really gives it some thickness. And so that's what it looks like on this end here. And you've got this nice closed-in woven looking texture, and you're good to go. So now at this point, what I would do after row 2 is I would bring my measuring tape back, and I'm just gonna take a little measurement of what my width is here. Okay, so that is sitting at 1 inch, right? And just in case you can't see because of there, I'm just gonna go from here to here. So that's just under 1 inch, so we're gonna call it 1 inch. So what do we know? We know that 2 rows creates 1 inch of depth. Now I'm aiming for about 12 inches. And so if 2 rows gives me 1 inch, that means I'm gonna need to do this 12 more times at 2 rows each. So that means I'm gonna need a total of 24 rows to give me my 12 inches, all right? What I would do is once you get to about 12 rows, I would take a measurement again. And if at 12 rows you're now measuring 6 inches, then you know your gauge, so to speak, is staying on that trajectory of the 24 rows. Cool things about projects like this is you can just measure it as you go along. So basically, now you're off and running. You know what to do, right? So you come to the end of your row. So I'm gonna just pick this back up here. Okay, so at the end of every row, for Pete's sake, you're always going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to take a new piece of cord, place it against your work here, and then go back into the very first stitch again, pull up a loop, trap that cord in there, and then pull through. Really easy peasy, straightforward. Now you're getting to be very pro at this, okay? So you can see the ends now are sticking out there. And you know what to do. Single crochet 1 into each stitch all the way to the end. Chain 1, turn your work, and repeat. So this is where I leave you. And you are probably gonna put on a nice podcast, watch a Netflix show, do your thing, maybe listen to some music, and you're gonna do this for several rows. So like I said, I'm gonna do 24, and then I will come back and show you what my rug looks like. And here we are, guys, 32 rows later, I have completed my mini rug. And so you can see the weave is nice and tight, and it creates a really sturdy fabric, I guess you would call it, and perfect for rugs. And I love how the cording really just gives it a little extra sustenance here. And I hope you had fun creating yours. It didn't take me very long at all. And like I said, I used 32 rows in total to create the width that I needed. Now, if you have any questions about your rug, please make sure to leave them for me in the comment box down below. And as always, you know you can reach me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have. And while you're there, why don't you visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com, and make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter. And I gift you a free written pattern every month as well. So you can check out some of the extra photos and behind the scenes from our tutorials, as well as a free written pattern. And make sure to check out my Etsy shop, Crochet Crafty Canada, to find a few more written patterns. I am working on beefing up my portfolio there. It takes me a little bit of time because it is just me filming and editing and writing all of my patterns. But I so appreciate you guys coming along, and all of you that have been supporting me throughout the years on this channel. I love hanging out with you guys. And also, you may have noticed there's a thanks button on the bottom of our videos. And for those of you that like to give a little extra support to the channel, you can just click on that and show your sign of thanks with a small donation. And that helps us keep the channel going and keep all aspects of production on the go for you guys. So the other ways you guys can help is, if you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button. And if you like videos like this, make sure to press the like button. That also lets me know that you like this type of material, and I'll make sure to keep creating more of this type of content for you guys. And don't forget, come visit me on the socials as well. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at The Stitch Sessions. I hope you guys are having a great summer so far. Have a great day. Happy crocheting, and take good care of yourselves. I'll see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.